Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to take a huge pile of source material, find the real gems of wisdom inside, and bring them straight to you.
And today, our source material is, well, it's a whole universe.
It really is. We're diving into the wit and wisdom of Discworld, which was compiled by Stephen Briggs. It's an amazing collection, really, pulling the absolute best bits from the works of Sir Terry Pratchett.
And when you say the best bits, you're talking about a distillation of a truly massive body of work.
Oh, absolutely. The compiler notes that he's drawing from something like 4 million words of the Discworld canon.
4 million.
Yeah, and just to give you some context on that, that's roughly twice the word count of the entire Bible and all of Shakespeare's plays combined.
It's a staggering amount of material. And the quotes have been, tweaked just a little so they make sense on their own outside of the novels.
Exactly. And our mission today is pretty clear. We're not just here to laugh at the jokes, even though they're brilliant.
No, we're going deeper. We're trying to pull out the philosophical structures, the satire, the really sharp commentary that Pratchett built into this world.
He used fantasy, didn't he? It was like camouflage to smuggle in these really profound ideas about politics, human nature, and even economics.
All under the cover of, grumpy witches and a library run by an orangutan. It's proof that to really critique our own reality, sometimes you have to build one that's even more absurd.
Before we really get into it, we should probably mention just how big Pratchett's world is beyond the main novels.
Right. The sources point to so many other works. You have Good Omens, of course, with Neil Gaiman, but also things like the Science of Discworld volumes,
Which he wrote with Ian Stewart and Jack Cohen. That blend of hard science and high fantasy is so key to his whole approach.
It is. He wasn't just building a world, he was building concepts. He'd ask, if magic is real, what are the actual practical consequences? What's the plumbing like at a wizard university?
Right, and you see that in all the other stuff, too. The maps, Nanny Ogg's cookbook. It's all grounded in this hilarious practical reality.
So here's the promise for this deep dive. You're going to walk away with some surprisingly useful truths about our own world.
All learned from a flat planet sitting on the back of a giant turtle. So let's start right there, with the fundamental absurdity of it all. The nature of reality and belief on the Discworld.
We have to start with the turtle.
You have to start with the Great Atuan.
A giant star turtle, sex unknown, swimming through space. It's carrying 4 huge elephants, and they're holding up the disk of the world.
It's the complete opposite of, our model of the universe. But right away, Pratchett uses this insane image to explore the exact same debates we have about our own existence.
He sets up 2 competing theories, basically, 2 big camps. The first one is the academic theory.
The cold scientific view.
Exactly. It says that Atuan came from nowhere, is crawling slowly towards nowhere, and will just keep doing that forever. It's logical, but it's completely without purpose.
It's a materialist viewpoint, right? Stripped of all meaning.
Yeah.
But then you get the other side.
The religious theory, which is basically Pratchett's version of the Big Bang.
The Big Bang hypothesis, yeah.
They believe Atuan is crawling from a specific place, the birthplace, towards the time of mating.
So the end goal isn't just oblivion, it's a cosmic union with all the other star turtles out there.
A fiery, passionate event that will give birth to new turtles and new worlds.
And what's so brilliant is that you're given a choice between 2 equally bizarre and completely unprovable stories.
Right. Eternal, meaningless drift or explosive cosmic sex. It shows that both science and religion, at their core, require this little leap of faith about where it all began.
We just pick the story that makes us feel better.
And that leads perfectly into his main idea about gods, the power of belief. On the disc, it all works backwards.
We tend to think, the thing exists and then we believe in it.
Pratchett says, no, not for gods. First comes the belief. He says belief just sloshes around in the firmament like lumps of clay.
And when enough people focus that belief,
it creates the god, which is why the gods on the disc are so human. So flawed.
Because they're literally made from our own desires and weaknesses. They do all the things people would do if they suddenly got cosmic power.
Smite their enemies, demand golden statues, hang out with nymphs. They're just embarrassing reflections of us.
But the wizards, they have a completely different take on it, a very practical one.
Oh, it's wonderfully dismissive. They just don't see the point in believing in gods. It's like believing in tables.
You don't need to believe in a table. It's just there. You could use it. Or you can eat off your knees. It doesn't care what you think.
And they apply that same logic to the gods. Either they're real, which means your belief is irrelevant, or they only exist because of belief, which means they're not worth worrying about anyway.
So either way, just get on with your day. It's such a freeing idea, just sidestepping that whole need for divine approval.
It also explains why gods are so temporary. The source mentions a god named Om, who became a top god by, get this, not answering prayers.
But in a dynamic way, right?
Yes, in a way that suggested that one day he might. And when he did, it would be spectacular. It's a brilliant insight into human nature. We're more drawn to the potential of something than the actual delivery. I maybe is more powerful than a yes.
And the gods have to evolve with society. We get new ones based on modern problems.
Like Anager, the goddess of squashed animals.
Because of better roads and faster carts.
Exactly. Enough people hit a hedgehog and cry, "Oh God, what was that?" And all that concentrated guilt and frustration creates a new, very specific deity. It's divinity born from infrastructure.
Speaking of things that warp reality, we have to talk about elf space.
Library space, yes. Pratchett says the Discworld is as unreal as it is possible to be while still being just real enough to exist.
And there are more than 4 dimensions, they just kind of fold in on themselves.
Which, he suggests, could mean one of two things. Either the universe is full of incredible wonders, or, and he says this is more likely,
Scientists just make things up as they go along.
a perfect jab at academic jargon. But this leads to L-space. The idea is that mass distorts space. That's a real concept.
But on the disk, knowledge itself has mass. Information has a physical weight.
So where's the greatest concentration of knowledge, the greatest theoretical mass? In the library of unseen university.
And the sheer weight of all those books, all that information, has literally bent reality. The dimensions inside the library have folded in on themselves.
It's so bad that to find a book you might need a ball of string just to find your way back out.
And this is the part I find so prophetic. The source says the library is one of the most dangerous places in the universe, simply because it is a library.
Think about that in terms of the internet. Information overload made manifest. Pratchett saw it decades ago. When you concentrate too much information in one place, reality itself becomes unstable and impossible to navigate.
It's not a quiet place for study. It's a dimensional nexus on the verge of collapse.
That's his genius. He takes a fantastical idea, and then he rigorously and hilariously works out the logical consequences. Which brings us to the city where all these consequences play out.
Ankh-Morpork.
Okay, the city. It's just this glorious, filthy, thriving, cynical heart of the disc, and we have to start with its government.
Or lack thereof.
It runs on a system of one man, one vote.
Which sounds democratic.
It does, until you learn that the patrician, Lord Vetinari, is the man, and he has the vote. It's the most honest description of a dictatorship I've ever heard.
And Vetinari isn't your typical evil tyrant. He's efficient. His rule isn't a reign of terror, it's just an occasional light shower.
Yes, he might have people horribly tortured to death sometimes, but the source notes this is seen as perfectly acceptable behavior for a civic ruler.
Why, though? Why do people put up with it?
Because the people of Ankh-Morpork are, above all else, practical. Vetinari's rule might be brutal, but it's predictable. He stabilizes the economy, he organizes crime into guilds, he makes the city work.
And he minimizes annoyance. The best example is his edict banning all street theater.
And mimes.
Especially mimes. Anyone in the baggy trousers and white face paint would find themselves in a scorpion pit with some simple advice.
Learn the words.
The people loved him for it. It shows that a government that's really good at getting rid of things everyone hates is, well, it's tolerated, even if it's a tyranny.
The relief is worth more than some abstract concept of freedom. And that whole philosophy is sort of baked into the city itself, especially the river.
The River Ankh.
So polluted, it's barely a liquid. It said that being sick in it would probably make it a little bit cleaner.
It's a solid, basically. You could draw chalk marks on it.
But the citizens have this amazing, twisted logic about it. They claim the water is incredibly pure.
Because it's passed through so many kidneys.
It's not just a joke about pollution, it's a psychological defense mechanism. You take the most disgusting part of your environment and you invent a story that makes it a point of pride. It's what you have to do to survive in a city.
That cynical transactional nature is in the city's DNA. Everything is for sale.
Except the beer and the women.
Right. Both of which one merely hired.
See, even the language avoids moral complications. It's not ownership. It's a temporary contract. It's pure utility.
But it wasn't always like this. There was a more idealistic ruler once. Olaf Quimby II.
And he tried to legislate honesty. Absolute, total honesty in all public
A
reporting.
terrible idea.
Catastrophic. Bards and storytellers had to add footnotes to everything. If a hero's prowess was spoken of by all men, they'd have to add a little disclaimer.
Like, except for a few people back in his village who thought he was a show-off and, most people who'd never heard of him.
It just killed all the romance. A hero's horse couldn't be fleet as the wind. It had to be fleet as the wind on a fairly calm day, say about Force 3.
It's a perfect satire of our modern obsession with fact-checking and disclaimers. He tried to legislate the poetry out of life.
And of course, it got him killed. A disgruntled poet proved the truth of the proverb, the pen is mightier than the sword.
But, in the spirit of Quimby's own laws, that proverb immediately needed a very practical amendment.
Only if the sword is very small and the pen is very sharp.
Which brings us to the even more brutal practicalities of just staying alive. The socioeconomics of it all.
And this is where we get what might be the single most important piece of Pratchett's wisdom, the Vimes-Boots theory of socioeconomic unfairness.
This one hits home. It's just so chillingly accurate.
It is. It's from the perspective of Sam Vimes, the commander of the City Watch. And it explains perfectly why it is so expensive to be poor.
So let's break it down for you. The theory starts with a simple observation. Rich people spend less money.
Because they can afford quality. And the example he uses is a pair of boots. A really good pair of leather boots costs, say, $50.
An investment. They'll last you for years, keep your feet warm and dry.
Right, but a poor man can't afford that $50 investment. He can only afford the cheap $10 boots.
The ones made of cardboard and hope.
Pretty much. And after one wet season, they fall apart. They leak. So next year, he has to buy another $10 pair.
So over 10 years, the poor man has spent $100 on boots that were never any good. And he's had wet feet the entire time.
Meanwhile, the rich man who spent $50 once still has his good boots. And his feet are dry.
It's the poverty trap. You can't afford to buy the thing that will save you money in the long run.
Why?
It's not just about having less money. It's a system that actively punishes you for it.
I think everyone has owned a pair of those $10 boots at some point. That's why it resonates. It applies to everything. Cars, housing, food, quality costs, and if you can't afford it up front, you pay for it forever.
And the city's approach to justice is just as pragmatic.
Oh, absolutely. The penalty for a first offense should prevent a second one.
Permanently.
It's ruthless, but it's efficient. Why waste city resources on rehabilitation when you can just solve the problem?
We also get the philosophy of the Silver Horde, the old barbarians. Their view on money is fascinating.
They saw rich merchants as caretakers. They didn't really own all that money. They were just looking after it.
Until someone who needed it more like the Horde came along to take it off their hands.
It's a surprisingly sophisticated critique of capital accumulation. They saw themselves as agents of wealth redistribution.
They only stole from rich merchants, temples, kings. They never stole from the poor.
Not out of any moral high ground, just because the poor didn't have any money.
That contrast between how we'd like things to be and how they are is summed up so well by Sergeant Colin.
He's always talking about the good old days, when people didn't even lock their doors, a time of trust and community.
And then his cynical little partner, Nobby Knobs, just bursts his bubble.
That's because the bastards even used to steal the locks.
And there it is. The nostalgia just evaporates. The past was just as bad, maybe worse.
And maybe the most baffling piece of economics is the actual cost of making money.
Right, at the city's mint. Mois von Lipwig, the postmaster, he's put in charge, and he's just stunned to find out that they barely break even.
While literally making money. It shouldn't be possible, but then you see the breakdown.
It costs a halfpenny to make a farthing. It costs almost a penny to make a halfpenny, and a penny costs a penny farthing to make. They're losing money on all the small change.
The only profit is on the big stuff, the dollar coins. But the real budget killers, the buggers as they call them, are the mites.
Tiny little coins worth half a farthing.
But they cost 6p to make, a fortune. Because they're small and fiddly and they have a little hole in the middle, the manufacturing complexity completely outweighs the coin's value.
It's a perfect metaphor for government bureaucracy, isn't it? The overhead of just doing the thing becomes more expensive than the thing itself.
Absolutely. From the practical world of money, let's go to the impractical world of magic.
Unseen University. And its many, many institutional problems. Let's start with their long-standing policy on women.
For centuries, no women allowed. And the official excuse was
Problems with the plumbing.
a classic, flimsy, institutional excuse. But the source makes the real reason very clear.
It wasn't about ability or tradition. It was fear.
A deep, unspoken dread that if women were allowed in to do magic, they'd probably be embarrassingly good at it.
And that's it, isn't it? The fear of being shown up. It's better to invent a problem with the pipes than to admit you're scared of being proven second best.
It's sexism in academia, perfectly captured, and their system for promotion was just as backwards.
Roy de Mortis.
Literally the right of death. The accepted way to get a promotion was to, well, kill the wizard in the job above you.
Talk about a hostile work environment. Its academic ambition taken to its most logical, lethal conclusion.
But that particular tradition is on hold at the moment, mostly because of the current Arch-Chancellor, Mustrum Ridcully.
He's the reason there's peace.
Because he's big, he's fit for his age, and he sleeps with 2 loaded crossbows. He's basically too much trouble to assassinate. He has created stability through sheer intimidation.
So for the less than brilliant wizards, the source says they have the life expectancy of a glass hammer.
Not great. But even the smart ones make some very poor life choices. There's that one anecdote about the wizard who spent his entire career on one spell.
The spell to make nude virgins appear.
He spent 20 years on it, 20 years. And by the time he finally perfected it, he was half blind from reading old books and, poisoned by alchemy fumes.
The spell worked.
Perfectly. But he was so old and confused he couldn't remember what he was supposed to do next.
The ultimate cautionary tale about misplaced priorities. He achieved his goal, but lost the reason for it along the way.
And while all this is going on, the most competent being in the entire university is the librarian.
Who is an orangutan?
Yes.
Well,
a magical accident turned him into an ape, and he refused to be changed back. And the best part is, nobody really notices anymore.
Right. It's just accepted. A visitor might point it out, and one of the wizards will just say something like, oh, him. Yeah, I've always thought of him as an ape, really. It's more him.
Yeah. They've completely normalized it. The bizarre reality just becomes the new status quo. It's a brilliant look at how institutions just absorb the weirdest things over time.
And the library itself contains some seriously dangerous knowledge, like the Necrotelecomnicon.
Written by Ahmed the Mad, or as he preferred, Ahmed the Mad. I just get these headaches.
And it contains forbidden knowledge, but it's not actually forbidden.
No one ever bothered to write a rule against writing it. It's just so obviously a terrible reality-destroying idea that a formal prohibition seemed unnecessary.
And speaking of dangerous ideas, we have to touch on Leonard of Quirm, the Discworld's Da Vinci.
A certified genius. His mind wandered so much it came back with souvenirs. He was hired to paint portraits of rich ladies.
But his real passion was in the margins, his doodles.
Siege engines, gunpowder rockets, massive engines of war. He was this gentle artist who was secretly designing weapons of mass destruction.
He even invented an engine to replace the horse, an early combustion engine.
It had one tiny flaw, though. As Vetinari pointed out, after watching one of them explode into a pile of scrap metal.
Forces very seldom explode.
The ultimate pragmatic shutdown. Innovation is great, but not if it randomly blows up. Stability trumps genius.
Okay, so from the male-dominated, explosive world of wizards, let's go to the other side of magic, the witches of Lancre.
A completely different philosophy. Grounded, practical, and highly personal. And at the top of that pyramid is Granny Weatherwax.
She has this worldview that just ignores statistics entirely.
Yeah.
1,000,000 to 1 chances, she says, crop up 9 times out of 10.
It's the storyteller's view of the universe. When things get dramatic, the improbable becomes the expected. You have to plan for the impossible.
And her sense of self is just absolute. If she got lost, she wouldn't see it that way.
No, she knew exactly where she was. It was just that everywhere else didn't. The world was lost, not her.
Her opinions on hygiene are just as certain. She says baths is unhygienic.
Sitting around in your own dirt like that. She prefers a more targeted approach.
Washing all the bits, as and when they becomes available.
It's pure pragmatism. And her magic is the same. She never actually turned anyone into a frog.
No, she just made them think they were a frog.
Which was cheaper, she said, more satisfying, and it provided innocent entertainment for passers-by. It's psychological warfare, not thaumaturgy. Maximum effect, minimum effort.
And her views on fashion are so specific. She objected to her apprentice Magrath wearing trousers, but not because they were immodest.
No, it wasn't that people could see Magrath's legs. It was that they can see where her legs are. The certainty of it bothered her, the lack of ambiguity.
Let's contrast her with the complete lack of ambiguity in Conan the Barbarian.
Right. When he's asked what the greatest things in life are, he just cuts through all the poetic nonsense.
It's not the wind in your hair or the open road, For Cohen, it's the sight of your enemy slain, the humiliation of his tribe, and the lamentation of his women.
Pure, tangible results. And his logic is unstoppable. If an enemy says, kill me, and 1,000 will take my place.
Cohen's response is just perfect. Yes, but that isn't the point, is it? The point is you'll be dead.
It completely dismisses the long-term, abstract threat in favor of the immediate personal consequence.
But the best bit of character insight comes from one of his companions. The realization that one of the barbarians in their group used to be a school teacher.
Yes. Someone comments on the terrible hardship of being a barbarian, the constant risk, the privation, and the teacher just brightens up.
And he asks, "Oh, you've been a teacher, have you?"
It says everything, doesn't it? It reframes the daily grind of a mundane job as something far more terrifying and soul-crushing than a life of adventure and violence.
And finally, we have the character who's always there. Death.
Who always speaks in capital letters. He's this detached observer of humanity, and he's mostly just confused by us.
He doesn't get why we spend our few short years on Earth making things complicated.
Like mincing chicken into little pastry cases or putting cherries on sticks in our drinks. He just sees it as a massive waste of time and effort for no real gain.
And when he tries to get a job in the mortal world, the career advisor is stumped. He looks at Death's resume and says,
"It would seem that you have no useful skill or talent whatsoever. Have you thought of going into teaching?"
Another brilliant shot at the teaching profession. But Death does provide one very clear answer for us.
He's asked, "Is it true that your life passes before your eyes before you die?"
And his answer.
Yes. Simple, direct, and unambiguous.
Okay, so for our last section, we're getting into the real heart of Pratchett's philosophy. The big ideas about human nature, morality, and time itself.
And we have to start with his definition of sin. It's so simple and so powerful.
It is. Sin, according to Granny Weatherwax, is when you treat people as things.
Including yourself, she adds. That's what sin is. It's the starting point for everything else.
When people argue that morality is more complicated than that, it's usually because they're afraid they won't like the simple answer.
Exactly. It all boils down to objectification. The moment you stop seeing the consciousness, the personhood, in someone else or in yourself, you've committed the first and greatest crime.
Think about how that applies to our world. Dehumanizing political rhetoric, corporate data mining. It's all about turning people into objects for your own use.
And this connects to his view on good-evil. He argues that good people are really only good at one thing, overthrowing bad people.
But after the revolution, they're useless because they don't know how to plan. The tyrant is gone, but the trash isn't being collected.
The bad people, on the other hand, are excellent planners. Tyranny requires a lot of organization. It suggests that for good to actually last, it needs to borrow some of the logistical competence of evil.
And most evil isn't even some grand theatrical thing. He calls it mass-produced darkness of the soul.
It's the evil of not saying no, the quiet, humdrum acceptance that allows the real darkness to grow.
On a more practical level, he talks a lot about the importance of knowing how stories work.
Understanding the narrative is a survival skill. Heroes, like Jack from the Beanstalk, get away with murder and theft because they're the hero of the story.
Whereas an innocent person who sits down at a card game with obvious sharks is going to get fleeced. Because that's how that story always goes. You have to know what role you're playing.
And sometimes not knowing the story is an advantage. He says a person who is ignorant of the possibility of failure can be a half-minute in the path of the bicycle of history.
Sometimes it takes someone who doesn't know it's impossible to actually do it.
Which brings us to the monks of history, who literally manage time as a resource.
They pump it from places where there's too much of it.
Like underwater. How much time does a codfish need?
And they send it to places that don't have enough, like the big cities. Time isn't a constant, it's a commodity.
And their guiding philosophy comes from a monk named Wen. He had this revelation that the universe is recreated instant by instant. There is no past. There is only memory.
The sky you're looking at right now, you have never seen before.
And if that's true, then the only logical response to existence is surprise. And the only proper state of the heart is joy. The perfect moment is now. Be glad of it.
It's this incredible call to live in the present, to let go of the past, because physically it doesn't even exist anymore.
But Pratchett immediately undercuts this profound cosmic truth with brutal, mundane reality.
As Wynne is contemplating this, his student asks him, "What does Master want for breakfast?"
And Wen sighs and says, one of the difficult ones. The need for breakfast will always intrude on enlightenment. It's the human condition.
Before we wrap up, we have to give a quick mention to some of the more specialized gods.
Like Anoia, the goddess of things that stick in drawers.
The goddess of that one ladle that always jams the kitchen drawer. Her worship consists of people rattling the drawer and yelling in frustration.
But she also finds lost corkscrews, so she's not all bad.
And we have to acknowledge the sensory power of Foul Oli Ron, whose smell had his own personality.
It would arrive several minutes before he did to spread out and get comfortable. You knew he was coming when your earwax started to melt.
Finally, just one more thought on time. The Yeti. They have this amazing ability, a kind of physical premonition.
It's so clever. When a Yeti faces a dangerous situation, it can basically save its life at that point. Like a video game, it creates a temporal backup.
But then it proceeds with caution. If it gets killed.
It just wakes up back at the saved point, but it wakes up with the memory of the disaster that didn't happen. It learns from a fatal mistake without having to die.
It's the ultimate lesson in learning from failure. All that remains is this perfectly accurate premonition.
Which is a good place to land, I think. This whole deep dive has been a wild ride.
It really has.
Really?
From giant turtles to the economics of poverty.
Yeah.
What Pratchett did was use these insane fantastical tools to explore very real, very difficult human problems.
Absolutely. The Vimes Boots theory is a perfect lesson in structural inequality. Vetinari's rule is a masterclass in the pros and cons of pragmatic governance.
And the simple definition of sin treating people as things is more profound than entire libraries of theological texts.
The punchline is almost always the philosophical point. It's all hidden in the humor.
So we want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. It comes from Ponder Stibbons, the young, earnest wizard at the university.
He was cursed, the source says, with the belief that if he could just find out enough things, if he could find the theory of everything, then it would all finally make sense.
He was searching for that one final unifying answer. But what the full body of Pratchett's work seems to suggest is that this search is the point, not the answer. And the biggest discovery isn't some complex cosmic formula.
No, the most profound discovery is the simplicity of the human truths that are hiding under all that chaos. You can have gods and magic and time-traveling Yidodis.
But in the end, the fact that a good pair of boots is cheaper than a bad one, or that all evil begins when you stop seeing someone as a person, those are the things that really matter. The universe might be chaos, but we don't have to be.
That's our deep dive into the wit and wisdom of Discworld.
Keep those feet dry, learn the words, and maybe don't make things so complicated. We'll see you next time.